South Africa's GDP contracted by 2% in the first quarter of 2020. Statistician General Risenga Maluleke joins me via Skype for more. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News this afternoon. Mining and manufacturing were the largest contributors to South Africa's economy's negative performance in the first quarter. How?
Greetings, Zinga, and again, greetings to the viewers, SABC viewers. But let us look at the overall contraction of our economy that is sitting at 2% as of this quarter, but largely contributed from mining and manufacturing. And if we look at mining specifically, we can see that the whole area of mining ore and iron ore and of course in the manufacturing, we can see the whole area of petroleum-related, machinery-related manufacturing has been affected. If you look at motor trade, for example, as well as from the side of trade, it is affected. Now, look at the COVID-19 environment, Nzinga, and let us look at it as in our country. It came in at the end of our quarter, the first quarter of 2020 that we are reporting on. But other trading partners of South Africa had already instituted their travel ban earlier than that, meaning that equipment couldn't reach us easily, as we can readily see in our imports and our exports, that they couldn't readily reach us because of those bans. So mining relies heavily on equipment, so is manufacturing. The whole area of imports in the area of equipment, TVs, and cell phone and related equipment did have a larger impact from the side of imports. Now, these two areas, mining that has had a bigger chunk of negative growth, sitting at 21.5%, followed by manufacturing, did also affect utilities in the form of electricity, water, and gas, because they demand a lot of these utilities. So that's why we see their impact in the area of the negative growth that we have recorded as a country.
Mm-hmm. When we're speaking about that 2% contraction, we're speaking about manufacturing and mining being the biggest negative contributors, but there are some industries that contributed to growth. What are they and how?
Let us look at agriculture, for example. Agriculture contributed 27.8% in terms of growth, but in terms of its contribution, it was 0.5%. Finance, let us look at the area of agencies and general financial activities. Its growth was positive. Its contribution was 0.8%. When we go back to agriculture, we can see field crops, horticulture, as well as animal products. And in particular, that we had good rains, the contribution was sustained positively. So is government, especially in the area of higher education institutions, as well as provincial governments that have seen a growth in terms of their activities, in terms of hiring of people. Now, when you look at those, they sustained positive growth, but they were not enough to offset the negative effect of mining, manufacturing, construction, and utilities.
Let's go to the demand side then. What happened with household spending in the first quarter of 2020?
Largely in household spending, we've seen that in food and non-alcoholic beverages, we have seen the largest growth in expenditure, your household final consumption expenditure, as well as in alcoholic beverages, as of course the whole area of tobacco and narcotics. We have seen an increase in that area. Of course, that was before the ban that we have seen in the second quarter largely. But when we look at areas like clothing and footwear, they went larger on a negative growth and contributed negatively to the growth. And it's because just before the end of the quarter, just before the end of March, when even before the lockdown, people were starting to take certain behavioral patterns in response to the COVID-19 environment. Although that is a smaller part of the quarter because that occurred in March, the larger chunk occurred even in the first quarters in the first 2 months of the quarter.
Could you tell us how coronavirus has impacted data collection and the work of Statistics South Africa, and then how are you going about ensuring that the data that you have and that you're transmitting is of good quality?
Zinga, we will go it in a limited way if we think corona only affects Statistics South Africa in the world. The coronavirus is affecting every aspect of life the world over, and indeed every facet of life. And in this regard, Stats SA is just the smallest drop in the ocean in the scheme of things, even in the behavioral patterns in terms of the economy or otherwise, even households in South Africa. Now, to be specific to the work of Stats SA, even before the president announced stage 5 lockdown, when there were incidents of corona breakout in our country, we couldn't send our field workers to go and collect data because it was becoming risky for them, but they could also potentially infect members of the public if they happened to have been positive at the time. Now, what we did is we started pulling off our field workers to work from home. In our household surveys, it's easier. They sit at home, they work from their tablets and call every respondent on the phone, and they collect all the information. We still have field workers from our prices who have to go to the shops and collect prices from the shop floor, because those prices must be monitored from the shop floor. But we are looking at ways of using scanner data in future. But from our economic statistics side, of course, you will have seen this GDP release that we are talking about was delayed by a month. So there were delays in relation to the timelines of our releases. So it's the same with the quarterly labor force survey. But one thing that we are doing is we are making sure that we churn out numbers, because this is the time that the nation and indeed the world needs data more than any other time in the history of mankind, man and womankind. And in this regard, as we do so, we always make it public. When we have limitations in terms of response rates, we always include it in our releases, and we will make sure that the numbers that we make public to the to our respondents, to the entire society, are always meeting quality standards of official statistics, which are in line with the fundamental principles of official statistics, so designed by the United Nations. But if there are any quality challenges that will make us not release numbers, we will be the first ones to go public and inform our country that these are the limitations coming out of COVID-19. But as of now, Stats SA remains in business in all eternity.
Statistician General Risenga Maluleke, thanks so much for your time on SABC News this afternoon, talking about those first quarter GDP numbers that came out.